It's time for the Northwoods Cooking Show. Starring Uncle Roy and Miss Callie, the troublemaking dog.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm Uncle Roy, and this is Miss Callie, my assistant. Come here, Callies. We can get your treat here. Come here. Come here. Look at everybody know you're here, not just sleeping all day. Oh, pretty girl. There you go. And speaking of Miss Callie, she ran out of treats the other day, so now that's what we're going to be making today. We're going to be making her some special treats, which are called McDuff's Peanut Butter Holiday Shortbread. She loves peanut butter to death, and I got this recipe out of my cookbook that I went when I was in Phoenix last September. So first of all, we're going to start out with 1.5 cups of the whole wheat flour. Now when I measure out now, I always like to take and use a knife and measure out evenly. People used to always guesstimate when you do your flours and dry ingredients. I used to do it myself too a lot of times. But the problem is that you're not getting the exact amount that you need. And by leveling it off with the knife, you're going to have your exact measurement. And the main reason why is because if you have too much flour, it's going to make your product drier and harder and tougher. And you want your products to be light and moist. You don't want them to be, hard as a rock when you cook them, like your cookies and cakes, etc. They get tougher if you have too much of the flour in there. And that's really hard and easy to do if you don't measure exactly. So there's 1.5 cups of the whole wheat flour, and then we need 1/2 cup of regular white flour. So we got our flours in there, and now we're going to put in a tablespoon of baking powder. And again, on baking powder, I use a lot, so I don't have to worry too much about mine. But if you don't bake a lot, this will get inactive on the top surface, so you want to take and mix it up a little bit first, because that baking powder that's sitting on the top, some people have it in there for a year or 2 years. Just look at your expiration date on the bottom of your can, and I'll tell you when to buy a new one. They're not that expensive, and you can just throw them out and buy a new one. But if you mix it up lightly, that kind of reactivates it too. And these are just even dry ingredients, so we're going to mix these up first. And we'll just mix this right up in the bowl, so these all blend together. And then in a separate bowl, I'm going to be mixing up the peanut butter, and that's 1 cup of smooth or chunky peanut butter. You can use either kind, it doesn't matter. And of course, this is for Callie, for the dog, so I don't have the expensive peanut butter. This is your cheap brand that you can buy in the store. It doesn't matter. You can get the good stuff if you want to too. But for cost effectiveness, you don't have to take and buy expensive peanut butter. She'll eat it no matter what. So I ran out, so I got another jar here. And this is the good stuff. With the good stuff is on sale. So she's going to get a little mixture of both flavors. But I like using the creamy preferably. Because when you go to cut out with the cookie cutter, if you have the peanuts in there, it makes it hard to get a nice clean cut with your cutter, because then you're fighting with the peanuts. So the smooth for me works out much better. And we'll just put that right in. And then all we need is 3/4 cup of milk. So it's 3/4 cup milk with 1/2 cup of peanut butter, or 1 cup of peanut butter. What you want to do is get this well blended together so you have a smooth paste. And we're going to put this right into the dry ingredients. Just make a well in the center of the dry. And we'll blend this in together. And then we're going to take and put on the attachments, because we want to knead it for a good 2 minutes. Because you want to get that gluten activated that's in the flour. But there's not that much in there. That's why the white flour is only 1/2 cup, and it's more wheat flour. So the gluten is more in your white than your wheat. I mean, it's in both, but it's more predominant in your white flour. So this is coming along just fine into a nice smooth paste. And we'll plop this right inside here. This is looking good. She comes. Yeah, I knew she'd come. Say, she comes. We're making your treats, Callie. Yeah, your treats. So you can look, give a taste. Peanut butter, your favorite. Yeah, you like peanut butter. Put on the kneader. And we'll just let this mix together for about 2 minutes until it's quite elastic. Okay, now that's all thoroughly mixed up. And now we're going to take this out. And it's a little on the clumpy side, but it's thoroughly mixed. And we'll just knead it together for a little for a minute or two, just to get it to stick together, closer together better. Oh yeah, you can't wait, can you, Callie? You're waiting for crumbs. You're looking for crumbs. She always helps me out in the kitchen when I'm cooking. Now what we're going to do, we don't have to take and mix it up all at once. So we're just going to cut this in half. And we'll do 2 batches here. And the best thing about this is just take a Ziploc bag and you can just throw this in there. And you can put this in the refrigerator and do it later if you want, or stick it in your freezer. And you can make dog treats later on when your first batch runs out. Take these out of the freezer, let them thaw to room temperature. And then you can take and just roll those out and cut them out, so then you can have dog treats later. You don't have to make them all at once. If you make them all at once, then sometimes they have a tendency to mold or rot out after you if you make too large a batch and you don't use them all right away. But with Callie around the house, it's about really quickly. They don't have a chance to spoil around here. Now we're going to take and roll these out, and you want just a light flour, just like when we were making the pie crust and stuff. You don't want heavy flour because you don't want to dry out your biscuits. Same way when you're making your cookies, your pie crust, etc. You want to use just as light a flour as you possibly can. You're adding more flour to your dough, and that's going to make it tougher. Now, that's okay. She'll eat it. But when you're making your other products, you want to just be careful when you're doing the flour. And now we're going to roll these out. And everybody's used to making cookies. Well, we're making dog biscuits. We're not making cookies. So you don't want to roll this out too thin, because then your biscuit is going to take and break easily and fall apart. So you want about a 1/4 inch to about a 1/2 inch thickness. So you want a sturdy, hefty type of biscuit. Oop. And we just take the cookie cutter. I have the little doggy shaped bone ones. You can use any type of shape you want. It doesn't matter. These bone shaped ones just happen to come with the cookbook. There's like small, medium, and large. And I don't like making the large ones for Callie because that's too rich for her. You got to give her these treats in moderation. If you give them to your dog too much, too often, and they're not used to them, they're going to get sick and throw up. And that's true with anything you give them. So you got to wean them off and just give them a little bit. They're a treat, they're not a meal. So you don't want to overdo it. But there's big size cutters for large dogs and smaller ones for the small dogs and the large, medium size. But I do the small ones for Callie so I can give her more and more often when she does her tricks for you. Because she can sit pretty really nice. And then we'll just cut these out and we'll put these on a cookie sheet. Now with this you can take and put on a sheet of parchment paper if you'd like. Aluminum foil works just as good. And it's just to help to keep the biscuit from sticking to the sheet. And just like making cookies, remember now the baking sheet, I just have the ridges are just on the edges. That's just for pulling out of the oven. But you don't want any edges on your cookie sheet all the way around like that. You want it flat and plain. The ones with the ridges are going to contract heat. And when you're making your cookies too, by contracting that heat, it's going to make your cookies burn quicker. So you don't want to have that. Those are basically more or less for making cakes. The baking sheets with all the ridges around the edge. So you want one without edges like that. It's the old tin cookie sheets that Grandma used to have, or your mom used to have. They're just the old cheap aluminum ones. They work the best because they take and spread the heat out all evenly. Now even today's modern ones have the Teflon coatings. They'll take and burn too. I mean, your food ain't gonna stick to it, but it can still burn because if it's a dark coating. The dark coating Teflons absorb heat, and so you got to turn your oven down by 25 degrees because it'll burn your product. So you want to make sure you just use the old-fashioned tin aluminum ones. They're cheap, they're very inexpensive, and they work the best. I know I did that once with a bundt cake. I had a bundt pan that was Teflon, and I couldn't imagine why it was burning, and I found out because it was a dark Teflon that absorbed all the heat. And that's what made the top of the bottom of the cake all darker. So we'll just put these up, and just for doing a half a batch, I'm getting quite a few here. This makes the recipe itself for both batches, for the whole batch, is like 55 of these little biscuits, and that's a lot. So we're just going to do half a batch, and then I got this other one I could take and stick that in the freezer, and we'll make some more later up. Then she'll have fresh treats. And then these I got the oven preheated at 400 degrees, and these will bake off for about 15 minutes. And we'll come back out and I'll show you what the little treats look like. Okay, now we're just going to time the biscuits for 15 minutes, and we'll take them out of the oven, and we'll have the peanut butter treats for Callie's. And this is the finished product of our biscuits. These are called the McDuck's Peanut Butter Holiday Shortbread. Now we'll have to make the true test and have to see if Callie likes them. I know she loves peanut butter, so we'll see how she reacts to these biscuits. And these are the fresh holiday peanut butter shortbread biscuits. Just came out of the oven. Callie will be a taste tester and see how good they are. How good are they, Callie? Oh, sitting pretty too. I think that's a winner. So now we're going to go on to our next recipe, but from Callie and I, healthy eating, be safe, and spread the sunshine.